Mark here for another great Mark 2.0. Well, Wilmington, North Carolina is where we journey to today with Monty Hobbs. Monty, welcome to the podcast. We are so thrilled to have you.
Brian, thanks guys for having me.
Here.
Pleasure. Looking forward to chewing the fat and telling you about Wilmington and what we got going on down here.
We're excited. Let's start out by talking about the Thursday Night Club.
Absolutely. The Thursday Night Club is a film that was an adaptation from a novel through a New York Times bestseller by the name of Steve Manchester. And it was about some college friends who get inspired by one of the students' father. And he passes away. And he instills this message of kindness. And it was so good that they made it into a podcast and a musical type of podcast. And it went to, I think, number 4 right during the heights of COVID. And then during COVID, we were sitting around and we were talking and we said, what a wonderful feeling it would have if we had a Christmas movie that was not only about Christmas, but was about giving. And it's a story of kindness. It's a story of grief. It's a story of a little girl was the recipient of a bone marrow. And we actually got a real live bone marrow donor who played the actual part. And there's a whole nother little backstory about that. His name was Mike Mahone. And he just stepped up to the plate one day and said, hey, I am willing to give my bone marrow to this little girl. And so we felt that we had to have him in the movie. And then to round things off, we got Gloria Gaynor, who's never appeared on screen whatsoever. And this is her first featured role. And her name was Dr. Portier, in a homage and an honor to Sidney Portier, who passed away. And she was a real big fan of his. And so all the things were lining up, guys. Everything was good. We're going to roll production and everything. And then all of a sudden, our director at the time had to step away. So forced to not know what we were doing and how we were going to be guided by this, our other producer, Valerie Smaldone, who is a 3-time Billboard winner, who is basically an icon in New York City, stepped up and decided to direct it. When she stepped up and decided to direct it, she called a friend, Carmine Appice, who is arguably one of the best drummers of the last 100 years. He's easy in the top 10. He's wrote a lot of songs for Rod Stewart and everybody else. He says, hey guys, I've got some music that would fit. So we jumbled all this together in February. We shot it in March. We executed, and it was now being released November the 1st by Sony PureFlix. And so from there, what was accompanied with this movie is a workbook. And the workbook has understandings about grief, about being a better person, and about being kind. And so now it leans on the faith element. And what we did was we added a QR code in the workbook. So when somebody opens that workbook, it takes them straight into the scene of the movie. And so now we have 2 different models. We have a visual model and we have a reading model. So those are all being executed as we speak. November the 1st, I'll plug it once again, PureFlix exclusive. And then in January, it becomes available on any VODs and any Walmart, any Target, Amazon across the country.
Oh, this is humongous and delightfully complicated. This is working on so many levels. I've never seen anything like this.
Well, what I did, I looked at a lot of Hollywood, what we would consider family movies back in the 80s now is addressed as faith-based. Mm-hmm. If it has some overtones or beliefs and stuff, they don't want to mix it into the general public. So it's family-friendly type of visual. And so what I did was a couple years ago, I did a film called The Favorite with John Snyder, Bo Duke, and it had Tyrone Woodley in it. He was the UFC light heavyweight champion at the time, and it had Jeff Hardy in it. And so you're looking at those 3 and you're like, what in the world? Well, what they did was they had a niche for each market, and each person has obviously their own fan base. So when we looked at the Thursday Night Club, we cast this group of kids, and I would say kids, they're in their 20s, but they're great bunch of actors and actresses that blew us away. And we come to find out that they're more than what we thought, that these are top quality. I mean, their resumes will speak for themselves. I'm not going to mention their names because it wouldn't be fair if I don't list all 5 of them. So we'll keep moving from that. But then you have Gloria Gaynor. Gloria Gaynor's wish was to be in a movie, and we had a relationship with her. We brought her in. I'll tell you, it was like bringing in the president. You know, Miss Gaynor coming in. She had her entourage. Within 3 hours, she was killing it, nailing the scenes, the pro that she is. And it was just an honor for somebody of that celebrity to choose our little movie to be in. And she's been a partner and an ally ever since, and we hope to do more with her.
My goodness. This is like history in the making. And she is just, I mean, she is so famous. I heard a reference to her even in the Umbrella Academy. I've been watching, you know, relentlessly, and they made a Gloria Gaynor. I'm like, oh, that's so cool, you know, Gloria Gaynor. And it's like, and now she's involved in something like this, and people are going to be blown away.
They are. I mean, once we started talking, it was kind of funny and unique because now you had Gloria, you had Valerie directing, and then Carmine. You had these, you know, trifecta. Then a couple weeks ago, we were picked up in Billboard magazine. And so because you've got 2, you know, music legends, and Valerie's history with being a DJ, it's carrying it to places we could have never imagined. We're thankful for it. We do believe in the message of kindness. That's where Be the Match kind of plugged in, because they knew that this movie was about bone marrow. And quite frankly, they wanted to make sure we got the story right. You know, there's always this stigma if you're giving bone marrow and stuff, it hurts. Well, we put it in the movie that it does hurt, but you know, there's a level of scaring people or whatever, but we wanted to make it authentic as possible in the scenario. So if one person watches this movie and they go sign up for Be the Match, then it's a success in our world. Yeah. And what the irony, I mean, I guess I would say irony, what is this, the bizarre thing, before this movie was laid in my lap and we went in, you know, heavily and aggressively pursuing to make it, I signed up as a donor and Be the Match. And my mother passed away from multiple myeloma, and they didn't have the advanced technology they have now to keep people alive. So I've turned this into a root cause to at least spread the word. And I think a lot of good comes from that. And what I mean by that is us talking is any way you can talk about a show of kindness in the world we live in today. If it's done right, it's going to be a hit.
Yeah, I mean, this is pure love. And that's all that went into this. You know, there's no money thinking going into this. It's just all pure goodness. And so it can't do anything but succeed. And I hope it just lights up the whole world. I think it might.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So what else have you been involved in lately?
Well, I mean, right after that, we went to work on a pet project that I've had kind of in on the back burner, and it was dealing with, oddly enough, more faith-based stuff, family-oriented stuff. And we started thinking, hey, all these makeover shows, there's so many of them, but they're all drastically the same thing of the house before and after. And there's always that debate where did they really paint that? And come to mind, I'm not downing anything right now, but there's this show on Netflix, and it's a makeover show, and it's horrendous. It is they literally have half the sheetrock hanging off, and they're across the street saying, hey, they're on the way home, and there's like camera crews everywhere. There's no way, it's oblivious to it's called Instant Makeover or something like that.
Oh, that's funny.
I said this is ridiculous, but it's trending at number 4. So obviously it's either terrible, which Reddit absolutely says that 100% how terrible it is. I said, we don't want to make that. I said, what I would like to make, I would like to bring a TV show with my partners, Valerie Smaldone and Matthew Shazarax. And I would like to bring it to Wilmington, and I would like to help some families. Crazy idea. And people says, well, what's the hook? You know, like, what's the catch? I said, the catch is what you and I take for granted. That's the catch. And they said, what do you mean? I said, 70-year-old prime example, 70-year-old man was in an accident, almost brain dead, still functions, but not capable of taking care of himself for the most part. He can't even walk down the steps. He's in need for a ramp. Do you realize how much that would change his life? That's what we're going to do. So what we did was we put out a casting call. We found a lot of families in need, but we found 5 that we thought we could help. From a 6-year-old little fellow with Down syndrome and autism that just wants a playground, to a disabled vet that, you know, has neurological nerve damage and this and that needs his house painted. Oh. We nailed 5 of them down. At this time that we're speaking presently, we're assembling a team of volunteers. And the volunteers range from businesses to other vendors and stuff. And we're going to go in there and we're going to change their house. We're going to change their ramps. We're going to add some level of community. To give you just a little hint, there's this one gentleman, he used to be a fireman. And he had to give up his badge after getting in a horrific wreck, 30 years ago. Well, we've got a fire truck coming to see him. He's going to relive that one day. And those stories that just go on and on and on. And we hope, we'll get a season 2. Right now, it's kind of like the Thursday Night Club. We're filming goodness. We've got a nice team attached. We have Erik Estrada attached. Me and Erik go back. We've worked together on some projects.
Erik Estrada from
Erik Punch.
Whoa. Dude, I grew up with Chips. I watched that so many times.
This is how bad it is. Here it is on the background. I got Chips playing right there as we talk to have us some motivation. Awesome. But no, Erik, when I started thinking of who could come to these people's homes and say, hey, we're here to help. We're here to hear your story. And when we leave, there's a community here. We're only there for a day, guys. We want that community for that person, that mom, that older person who says, hey, it's like this. So I said, let's call it Divine Renovation. And that the divine part,
so beautiful.
We're on a path where we're right now with me and my other 2 partners, Valerie Smadone and Matthew Chazarax. We're on a path to really have a business and a production company of kindness. And wherever that's going to lead us, it's totally opposite of what I came from doing the Georgetown Project with Russell Crowe about The Exorcist and everything else. So it's kind of crazy on a spectrum where you go from this extreme rated R type of thing to goodness and faith and kindness,
That is an interesting view, because there's very few people that, especially when people get older, they're like try to want to do more good things, but you've taken an extreme look at media and really highly focused it on a couple of areas. And I think actually you'll end up with some kind of network that does this kind of thing. And I wouldn't be surprised if other celebrities will be like, hey man, I want to get on there. You should really reach out and see who's interested, because this kind of thing is blowing my mind. Not only do you cover all the bases, you just go above and beyond on all this stuff. It's just very, very impressive.
We just wanted to leave these people, and I've been very frank and honest with each candidate we talked to. I said, we're not promising a new home. This is not Extreme Makeover. We're looking for your most needs, and you know what? Throw in some stuff for you. If maybe the mom doesn't have time to go to the gym class, maybe they want a certain membership somewhere. Let me hear not just your main needs and they're terrible needs, what we take for granted, for a new commode, a handrail in the shower, just these nominal things that if you have something chronic and you have no support, it happens, and we all get old. So the way I look at it is if I can make their day happy, it doesn't matter. And if we grab it on camera, so be it. And so we move from there, and you ask what I got going on. We'll filming this in about 2 weeks, and we wrap October the 4th, and then we head to Houston. And Houston is, we meet the founder of the Joshua generation. And that right there is a story of a man and his family all over the world, from Rwanda to Red Square with shooting guns. And so there's all kinds of mission trips that he's going to describe. And that's going to be a docuseries, but it's going to be used with factual archive visuals and animation. So that's going to be some fun stuff also.
Gosh, you're a busy guy, aren't you?
Busy, but you're only as good as your next project. That's what they say down here.
Wow. Well, I mean, what were your parents like? I mean, where were they born?
Well, my father and mother, I lost my father when I was 5, and I lost my mother when I was 19.
Oh,
and I lost my older brother, I believe, when I was 4. But my father, he would have been older. He served actually in World War II. And he was actually friends with Jimmy Dean, the sausage guy. And they used to ride motorcycles together. And I wish I would have, I found that years later. But he was a builder. And my mother, she was an antique dealer and a cake decorator. And I come from a little town right outside of Clinton, North Carolina. And it was a 2 stoplight town. It was quintessential 80s. I mean, it had everything back in the day, but I definitely outgrew it with antics and a little bit of hell raising. So, it is what it is. But when I say quickly outgrew it, I left there when I was 19 and traveled a little bit. And then I settled into Wilmington, and Wilmington will be more of a home to me than anywhere else. It is home,
Well, you've been on your own for quite a while. It's, I guess that's why you're such a go-getter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm married. I have a wonderful 10-year-old son, Lex, and I couldn't ask for what I'm doing right now. And I think that for me not to feel, I guess, selfless, and in the entertainment business, we all know, guys, that it can be very quick to be cynical, self-centered, and all that. I think if I'm more motivated about the projects of helping people, the projects are going to come. And I think that's with anything that we do in life. And I think that's the path I'm on. And if I get tired of it, I'll just stop. I'll just stop and maybe do something else.
So let's find out how you got into all this. I mean, where'd you go to high school, by the way?
Oh, I went to a little high school called Lakewood High School, and it was just, I think the whole school was maybe 200 people.
I bet it was great.
It was like nice. Dazed and Confused. So, I mean, to give you a little bit more history, I had a pool room. I had a pool room at this place, and I was 16, 17, owned the pool room, raised so much hell. It was the best thing in the world, and then I raised too much hell.
So you were an entrepreneur at 16?
16, had
the
players.
You owned this establishment? How'd you do that?
Well, I rented it from the district attorney's nephew.
Wow.
And so I'm renting a building, pool hall, everything.
Good stuff right here.
It was so bad, guys, that, it was like Dazed and Confused. Imagine you got Killer Instinct, you got Gallagher. I mean, everything was going back in the 90s, 95, around 95. They shut it down. They were like, you can't be operating this mini casino pool room. And to this day, there's no pool tables allowed in the city limits. And here's the irony of that.
The Hobbs rule.
Here's the irony of it. The best pool player in the world is also from Sampson County, and his name is Earl Strickland. And he's the most decorated 9-ball player. So he don't even have a plaque, or you can't even shoot pool in the county, he made famous. So we always joke about that.
That is fun.
It was,
I'd like to talk
like Dazed and Confused and the Dukes of Hazzard. I mean, the mayor was this larger than life boss hog dude.
Wow.
And his name was Toot, Toot.
Oh,
and it was so bad back then that the mayor would dig through the trash of the pool room to try to find empty beer bottles to say they're doing dirty. Think about Footloose or something like that.
Sure.
And so we would put a hit back on him with dog poop, and they would light the dog poop on fire. And this is way past the statute limitation. I'm not worried about it. It's 1995.
This
so
is
anyway,
hilarious stuff.
would,
You could write a book. This is like a book.
Yeah.
So it would go back and forth, and then it got to the point where there was this older fellow across the street that owned a grill, and he was a raging alcoholic at the time. And we said, "Hey, we're going to buy your grill," and he said, "Sure, just take care of my alcohol bill." So we bought his grill. So now we have a pool room and a grill. But there was a catch to that. He was probably the best drinker on earth. And so to keep up with his alcohol bill, he was drinking a case a day. He was drinking liquor. I mean, we're 16, 17. We own a grill. And then there was also in the crazy redneck contract was we have to take care of the past due light bill. Well, he had a past due light bill of like $8,000. I think it was.
Oh, so you took a loss on this deal.
Yeah, so it's a loss. So we were like, geez, I was like, we'd be better off just buying food from him like we were. We're worse off. So we had a great childhood. I mean, it was all fun, a little bit of drinking. Nobody got hurt. Moved on from there. College wasn't in the mix. Actually started in the restaurant business. I started with a company when I was 21, Carrabba's, and I started working with Johnny Carrabba himself and Damian Mandola. And they taught me how to launch a restaurant. So I dabbled in the restaurant business for a little while. And then out of that, I met this Irishman from Dublin, and he was in the roofing business, which I knew nothing about roofing, and commercial roofing at that. And he owned a bar, and the bar was called the Dublin. And so I got to really experience the Irish culture, to working on the roofs, and then, to 3 or 4 in the morning running the pub. So I did that. We expanded his business. We did very well with it, and we moved on from there, and we started catering, which I started catering. And that led me to the set of One Tree Hill, Mark.
Wow.
And so and I started doing One Tree Hill catering. At the time, Cinema Catering was doing a lot of it, and there was another 2 or 3. I said, wow, this is something to it. And they were doing a movie down here called Stateside with Val Kilmer and Rachel Lee Cook and Josh Turner. And it was god-awful. It was a terrible movie. It was, Val Kilmer was hanging around at the time, this prince. And they told everybody that was working on set that you couldn't look at the prince's eyes or Val's eyes. And I'll never forget it. It was just, we filmed it at Orton Plantation. It was military scenes about Beirut in in the 80s or something. And it was just a terrible movie. I'm sad to be associated with it, but there it is. So we move on from there. And at that time, Dawson's Creek, and then One Tree Hill come along. And then I got a call to be Nick Offerman, double and stand-in for We're the Millers.
Wow.
And so here we are working with Jennifer Aniston, working with Jason Sudeikis, spending the whole summer with Nick and hanging out with these guys after hours too. It was such an amazing experience, and friendships were made through the cameraman, Jason Elson. He went on to just do the new Elvis movie and the new Ghostbusters movie. The sky's the limit with him. He's one of the best cameramen in Hollywood. Shout out to you, Jason, if you're watching, when you watch this. So yeah, I mean, after that, I did Eastbound and Down.
Oh, what a great show. Yeah.
With Danny McBride. I actually done some stunt stuff with Stevie on the opening of the last season when he's in the car getting his car swiped. I'm the security guard that he runs the card into.
Oh, I remember that.
It was a great show. All those guys and all that whole team, class act. Then we went on, and I'm trying to think, there's some films that passes through. I'm getting to the real nuggets that I really enjoy. We went on and we did Sleepy Hollow. I, along with some good friends, were picked by Lynn Wiseman to do the first season of Sleepy Hollow, and we got to work with Tom Meeson and Nicole and Orlando Jones. They've been, and it was just a fantastic experience going back in time back and forth.
Yeah.
And so that was real fun. Then after that, I went on to do, started producing. I did a movie called Tarnished Notes, and I did a reality series called Burning Rubber. I produced those. And then I want to say 2018, 2019, I get the call and I jump on DC Swamp Thing. And
wow, more Swamp Thing.
Well, this keeps coming up. Yes.
That was $100 million show. It was 10 million an episode, and we were on stage 10. And stage 10, I'm not lying, guys, I'll never forget it. And Ron Blake will tell you, and Rob Fortunato, all these guys that I work with, you literally would go into the sides of Walmart, imagine it becomes a lake, and then imagine 60-foot cypress trees, and then imagine the dirtiest water, but it's all filtered. And when we would set up shots, we would get in John boats and be shuttled with divers to film these scenes.
Oh
and
God, that's so awesome.
The backdrop itself was $200,000 just in a curtain. And they built the cabins. And when I say 10 million an episode, no holds. So Andy Bean, which was Alex, which is the main star, I was also his stand and his double. And then a good friend of mine, Brian Jones, was Derek Mears' his double and stand in. And then I'll tell you a quick story on this, and Rob Fortunato will laugh at this. One day it was Swamp Thing. It was like the third or fourth episode, and we get called in to do a screen test, and we have no idea what it's for, but we know it's some serious stuff. And so we get there, and there's a forklift about 10 feet from us, and about 30 feet in the air, there's this pallet with this goo. And I look up there and I said, I thought we were coming here for a screen test. And usually that's, a little bit of makeup here or there or little special effects. They didn't say it that way. So they hand us two little Tyvek suits. We put them on, and they dumped like 200 gallons of
like
slime.
A Nickelodeon thing.
Yes,
oh my God.
Oh wow.
And apparently it was going to be some slime goo and everything, but Swamp Thing by far is the most insane show I worked on, from being friends out of this with Ian Ziering. Ian, if you're watching, he became just an awesome dude. Will Patton, Virginia Madison, let's see, Crystal Reed, Derek Mears,
Jennifer Beals, right?
Jennifer Beals. The list goes on, and the level of the extremes of practical effects. This is where Swamp Thing really came about. Is they relied heavily on CGI, but a lot of the bodies and stuff that you see in the series are puppeteers and stuff like that. And it was just an amazing special effects team. I still can't believe that I was a part of it, and I can't believe that it was shut down. And the reason why I say shut down, we all know that this was a show to be launching DC's app, but what happened was AT&T bought Warner Brothers. They didn't like where the show was going at the time. We were filming in the middle of everything. Jake Busey, Gary Busey's son,
I love that guy.
On this episode, and he was in crap, and he cut himself, and so he was all blood everywhere. It was real. And
I remember that.
And things are going crazy, and about that time, there's a call, and it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and the whole production just shuts down because there was rumors that it was going to get canceled, but everybody was saying there's no way. There's over $4 million just in stuff on stage 10 that was built for this show. There's no way that they would cancel something this big. About that time, the one of the producers calls a meeting and says, everyone, the show's canceled.
Oh, I've been there before. Yeah.
Everybody was like, what?
No way.
They was crew members, got on the phone and said, honey, the show's canceled. Stop spending the money. There's just, it was that type of. So time went on. They canceled. They tore down the show. Life went on, and then Hulu comes knocking, and the show Reprisal. And so I got the call to be Rodrigo Santiago. He was Xerxes in 300.
Nice.
And I was his second, and a few others, and we ran with that show almost 7-8 months, maybe longer. And then after that, Russell Crowe came to town, and I met Russell, and we done a screen test, and from there it was, hey, I'm working with Russell Crowe every day, which was unreal. And then David Hyde Pierce. How about this for a mind warp? One of the scenes we're laying down, and there's Russell Crowe right there talking to me, and David Hyde Pierce in a priest costume, and it's snowing inside of a building that the house is blew down. So it's these memories that, you know, you think of big budget and stuff like that. It's just, it's hard to describe what, you know, what you see on these $100 million sets to these $1 million movies. It's excess, but it makes sense of why these $100 million movies draw hundreds of millions back. You know, it just makes sense.
Wow, the curtain was 200K. So yeah, I mean, wow, that's crazy. That is crazy. So how much work did you do with Russell Crowe? He's actually one of my favorite actors of all time.
Every day. When we did the Georgetown, actually most of any of the hall shots or any of the shower shots, chest high, those were me. I got to work with him. I got to learn his craft. He's not a very patient man, but when he acts, you believe it. I mean, he's Russell Crowe. So he would have me walk through some of the dialogue, which the first week it was kind of nerving because, you know, I'll tell you how I met him. We were doing a screen test. Me and a couple other buddies were doing a screen test. And I'm trying to think of his name. He was the AD on this, and my gosh, his history of work is this. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. Well, anyway, he went up to me, and he's like, "All right, Russell wants to see you." And so I'm standing against the wall. This black Cadillac SUV rolls up, and it's Russell, and he gets out, and he's wearing a priest costume. So I get out, and I look at him, and he looks at me. And he goes over to the cameraman and he makes a joke. And he looks around and he walks back outside. So I'm standing there still just, you know, face off stone cold. And about that time, the AD comes and says, "Hey, Monty, Russell said you need to lighten up." And I said, "What?"
That's great.
He said, "You didn't laugh at his joke." And I said,
"What joke?"
I said, "I didn't think it was funny." He said, so he went out there and told him that. And Russell said,
he likes you.
He's an effing prick. He said he's hired. And so that's how that's how I got the job.
That is beautiful.
That's great.
Oh yeah. Some tells me Russell's the same way.
He's just, I mean, he was awesome. I got to work with some friends again. And then after that, I had a decision to make. You know, with COVID, everything got shut down. And we were, when I say we, some partners up north in New York, we were talking about doing some work. And we said, "Hey, let's make a documentary." And we got a camera crew, 5 of us, and we went to 12 states. From New York all the way down to Louisiana, Texas, all the way back up, all in between. And we done a docuseries called COVID America, and it got picked up by Boat Rocker. Wow. But as we're filming, you know, we're right in the middle of COVID, so you don't know what to expect all over the country. It was different areas. We were in New York when Times Square was empty. So we have all the historical footage and the interviews of Times Square completely empty. Then when we go down south to Louisiana,
can I ask, when you were in the empty Times Square, was it empty because you weren't supposed to be there? Did they arrest you and stuff?
Yeah, so, we had press credentials.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so we were able to go there, but guys, it was totally opposite when we went to New Orleans. It was just, you know, it was just crazy. Yeah, it was crazy to see the perspective on what was going on. So, you know, we got a real good dose of that. And then after COVID America, we kind of put our heads together and said, let's make the Thursday Night Club. And Thursday Night Club, now Divine Renovation, then Houston, and now here we are. So it's been a journey.
That sounds awesome. So I remember you said it was kind of a transition going from the movies, like of dark, things, subject matter, to this. How did it feel really to be in that kind of a situation, filming every day? That was something that was just kind of contrary to your beliefs and all of that. Did it?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, I look at when we were doing the Russell Crowe project, the Georgetown Project, it was so over the top horror that it was almost, for me, I'm numb to it. What some people would say, my God, it's so gruesome. I guess I looked at it from a technical perspective, a lens perspective, a lighting perspective, to not think about the storyline. And quite frankly, the more films you do, the more you want to know about the craft. If you have the opportunity to be at that camera, second team, I say this to anybody that's really wanting to expand their career. If you have the opportunity to be second team, you're getting more valuable lesson than any school would ever teach, because you have the AD there, you have the camera operator, you have the ACs, you have, start asking the DIT questions, learn exactly what that 50 millimeter is going to look back to a 25, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And if you get a mental note of that and you put that on smaller productions, you're bound to be able to have something decent.
Ron basically said the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same observation.
That's awesome.
So what does the future hold then? I mean, what's the next step?
Well, I mean, the next step is get some more kindness out. See, that's what's, where it's going to take us. We've got this project in Houston we're going to be launching, which I'm excited about that. And then after that, there's a couple of ideas and features. When you said reach out to some other people, we've talked to Nancy Stratford. I had a meeting with, she was in Matlock. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She was in Matlock.
I think I saw every single one.
Yeah. Yeah. Nancy's great. We
wasn't she in Dallas too?
I believe she was
and
in
Walker,
Dallas.
Texas Ranger, I think.
I think she was in Walker. She's really, really super personal.
You're good, Mark.
Well, Matlock was filmed in Wilmington, right? Some of the scenes.
The fourth or fifth season, the first 3 years they filmed in LA, and then Andy Griffith lobbied for it to be back in North Carolina.
Okay.
And so they cut budget. And when they cut budget, she said, no, I'm not going. And so that's when they added Ben, the older guy. So after that, then trying to think. After Matlock, we talked to Kevin Sorbo. Kevin Sorbo.
Oh, he's great. I love Kevin Sorbo.
We were at this conference where it was a film convention, and we're all there, and we're all meeting different colleagues. And I was talking to Valerie, and I looked back, and there he's right behind me. I was like, oh, well, there's Kevin. And I went to hey, Kevin. And he's just a really nice guy. He's got a lot of energy, but what we're looking for, we want to stay down the line to the left or to the right. You can alienate your audience, and we just want to be good people, and we just want to, if somebody's got a message to say, and we feel that it's in our narrative, what we want to talk about, that's probably what the future holds, Brian, as far as what we're trying to do.
That's awesome. Have you gone to the video platforms at all? I mean, dude, so many people and have so many friends and connections. Obviously, a YouTube channel would easily fund stuff you want to do. Have you gone that way? I mean, we want to get this out for you.
Yeah, we haven't yet. I mean, right now, what I'm trying to do since leaving the studio work, which has always been just amazing. All the crews here in Wilmington, shout out to all of them, are just top notch guys, and I miss seeing them on these lower productions. But the goal would be, after we get done with this series, Divine Renovation in Houston, my goal is to bring a feature to Wilmington, like I did in Connecticut. I brought that Thursday Night Club to Connecticut. And the reason why we went to Connecticut is one of the primary owners of that IP is from Connecticut, and there was a great backdrop there that we used. And let's be honest, the tax incentives. North Carolina doesn't offer a lot under the $1 million range, not what other states are. So it makes a pretty good argument that if you can say, hey, 20 cents on every dollar, if we, over $1 million can get back, you have to go where that incentive's at, because that's going to give you more money to do what you need to do with,
Yeah, smart. So let's see. So you're married and you have one kid and he's 10. That's cool. How does he adapt to all this? Your schedule's crazy, dude.
He adapts. I asked him the other day, I said, hey, by the way, I said on the 30th, you're going to be out of school. I need you to help me out. And he's like, what? I was like, you're going to be on TV. I was like, you're going to be doing some volunteering. He's like, huh? And it really, for me, at that age, if I had known somebody said, hey, you're going to be on TV, I'd have made an event. I think what we're dealing with the youth is TV doesn't mean as much as it used to. I mean, I did tell him that we are reaching out to Mr. Beast, because he is from North Carolina also. Wow. And we're going to try to at least get him on an episode. Pretty sure that he would love to do something with Erik. So what's next is trying to complete the show, guys. I mean, I'm trying to get all these different agencies and nonprofits that are helping with these families, but getting them meeting each other, because there is, what's great about this country still is there's a lot of people who care. And I think that if we can just show the spotlight that these unsung heroes are there, that's content that I don't make up. It's content that no writer is going to make up. It's life. And if we capture that, then Brian, is your question for YouTube and everything else, I think all that's going to follow. It just, off of some of the foundation that we built.
Yeah, well, I have two kids, 12 and 16 boys. And so Mr. Beast is highly known in my world. And when you were doing this, the first thing I think of is this guy's a philanthropist. He's not in it for the views. He wants to go help people. He's had a good run. He's doing really well, and he wants to kind of double down and help other people while he helps himself. So of course, the first thing I thought of is Mr. Beast. And then that brings me to the whole YouTube thing, where Mr. Beast usually takes the entire proceeds, which are considerable, and funds. I mean, really,
insane. Man.
Yeah, you don't see people get $1 million.
No,
every day.
I'm so glad you brought that
Mr.
up.
Beast. Oh my goodness.
Do you, when you're with your kids, do you ever just ask? Because I'll ask my son, I'll say, stop that video, and he'll look, and I'll say, how many views did he get? And he'd be like 20 million. And I would do like, okay, and then I just storm outside, not mad. Yes, disgusted, but not mad, because 20 million, and then this the excess. But he's teamed up with this other guy from TikTok named I wouldn't say teamed up. He made a cameo with him. His name's Johnny Darts. I don't know if you've seen him. And he goes around, and all he does is, like, he'll ask somebody, it's like, can I have a bowl of cereal, or can I have a water or something? And as soon as they give him something, and he picks almost the poorest demographic you can imagine, and as soon as they offer him something, he rewards them with kindness, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. Wow. So him and Mr. Beast were in Walmart the other day, and they go up to this somebody and say, hey, $1,000 right now, or give 10,000 to some stranger. Well, the guy says, I want to give 10,000 to some stranger. So he goes running, and he finds a mom with her kids and gives her $10,000. About that time, Mr. Beast,
of course, Jimmy gives him 10,000 or something.
That's right.
I just know what Jimmy's going to do, because he does it.
That's exactly right. So it was really cool to watch that, and I was like, my gosh, I was like, they're doing that on that level, which, with the viewership and the money they're making on this endorsements, it's insane. I looked at Divine Renovation. I mean, our budget, it's in the respective couple $100,000, but it's I wish it could be more, but in TV, you've got to be respectful of your budget because these are called fast shows, and these shows are destined to show what's going on, and then they're going to be on a VOD living somewhere for the next decade. So we want to make sure that we're conscious, and that's a model. Brian, when you ask the level of goodness and stuff, I absolutely are budget conscious to what we're doing also. So the formula works, and if you take two of those, there's no work of art. And I can say everybody on the team, pride will not ruin this production because everybody's so humble. Everybody's so humble.
My kind of team. That's just really, really heartwarming. That's amazing what you guys are doing. And how fast is this going to happen? When?
September the 26th, we roll camera. October the 3rd, we wrap. Erik flies back to LA. We spend 2 weeks in assortment of post-production, and then it gets cut. The third week we're in Houston, and we're on to the next one. By the end of November, this thing is finished. We're down at the ICVM conference in Florida, and we'll probably have an air date for it. I would say mid-January. It'll be on one of the 5 major platforms, guaranteed.
Think you might drop back by once that all takes place? We'd love to get
absolutely, guys. Sure. I'd love to go back and revisit this and tell you some goodness. And I'm sure that if I talk to some of my colleagues, it seems like you guys got a good thing going on. You're trying to also show and help people with the entertainment, the music scene. We always want to support each other. So anything I can do, I'll send you some background of my two colleagues. If you'd like to have them and talk with them, that would be awesome.
Love that. We love to have them.
And what makes Wilmington the perfect spot for what you're doing? It seems like it resonates with the community of Wilmington.
Great question, Mark. I would say what makes it, well, one is my wife said, hey, you got to stop traveling so much. So I really, I believe I ran for office pretty much to lobby to come here. So I can't take all the credit for bringing it here.
Launched a campaign.
Right. So, I put T-shirts and coffee mugs around everybody that was participating. I knew that if I bring it to Wilmington, as far as the volunteer wise, the people that we really are going to help, it's putting up where I lay my head to say, I'm not here to, claim a little bit of notoriety from this Thursday night club, which we think is going to do well. I'm here to just kind of what I learned on the movie about kindness. And I can say this, Mark, since we started pre-production with Divine Renovation, from starting with Erik out in LA until now, there's nobody that has second guessed it. There's nobody that hasn't said no. So that is kind of a problem because now we have 5 families that we have the pleasure and the honor to help out. We can't have 100 people there because that creates more of a problem. So my message to all these people when we do conclude and finish is we're gone. That doesn't mean that you have to stop, checking on your neighbor or your friend or something like that.
That's a great message.
Yeah.
Well, you've had an amazing journey. And I think you're just getting started. I mean, the thing about your thing is nobody's objecting at all because it's all from the heart, and just like Mr. Beast, and he does some crazy crap, and someone would object, I think, to some of these things, but, he's doing it just and giving it away. And that's what makes it great. And what you're doing is the exact same thing, giving away all that you have. And that's time and energy. We don't all have briefcases, stacked up with 10 grand in them just to toss around.
If Mr. Beast, it just amazes me how fast content moves. And so I started looking at, when we did these open submissions, a lot of heartwarming, sad stories came in. And I'll go ahead and tell you, the majority of it is elderly people. So it's a wake-up call. Because now if you look at, social media and stuff like that, people like Mr. Beast, there is a level of respect that they're not going to go up to an 80-year-old but we all have this perspective that if you're old, you're okay in some shape or form if you're out and about. But we're finding out that's not the case.
No.
And, you know, it's just with the economy and everything else. I mean, there's so many variables now that 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you know, you had more families together. And so we have seen, which is sad, a lot of older people alone. And that kind of breaks our heart. So, you know, who knows if the show's a success, we have those people on file. We're definitely, and that's the other thing I can say is even though we're not able to get them on the show, we do have and are going to provide resources to at least explore getting them help. So that's the best we can do. But if it's just some effort, I think that's better than no effort. And that's where the lure of TV kind of gets a stigma, which I get it. We've always experienced or heard stories where TV comes in, you know, rampant and everything else and leaves bad, you know, footsteps. So we wanted to make sure that this TV show, Divine Renovation, wasn't a pity party. It was a launching party to good things.
Yeah, a celebration of what you're doing. Yeah,
that's right.
I like that perspective. Yeah, it's not a pity party. It's a good time just doing a good deed. And you know what? Mr. Beast inspires people. You're going to inspire people. And who knows, you know, people are going to start turning around and maybe fixing somebody's sink or a door or shoot, you're going to start a chain reaction of love, man. That's what you're going to do.
Well, guys, I really appreciate it for the chance to get on the show. I saw you had Ron on. I'll send you some more contacts. And
thank you.
If I can be of any help with you guys, you got my email, Mark. Just reach out, you know.
Been great having you. Great having such a beautiful soul on. And you're welcome back anytime. Bring whoever you want.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks. Take care, Monty.
Thanks so much for Mark 2.0. Brian, Mark, Monty.
Catch us on YouTube. Subscribe and thumbs up, guys.
Subscribe on YouTube. We're also blowing up on the audio platforms, but we prefer YouTube because then you can put a face to all of us. So
come see
Mark
handsome
2.0.
Monty.
Look for the blue moon logo, as Brian always says. Mark 2.0.
See you guys.
Thanks
Later,
so much.
guys.
Thanks again, Monty. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much.